if you'd said to me yesterday morning Manchester United are looking to sign a striker, Weghorst would probably be about 29th on my list. Now, that doesn't necessarily say that they're not going to sign him or he's going to be a success, but is it a story that surprised you?
A little bit, Coisty, I have to say. I mean, I know they've obviously got a past of doing it, Man United, haven't they? But it seems to be like it's going to be obviously a short-term loan. And Erik Ten Hag certainly knows the player himself. And we saw what he can achieve in the World Cup. It is a surprise to me, I have to say. And I just think it just shows which bracket Manchester United find themselves in. I think they're going to have to wait until the summer to bring in a striker, if that's exactly what they're going to do, to maybe replace Cristiano Ronaldo. But he's something different. He's more of a target man. I saw him quite a bit when he was at Burnley, albeit I know he didn't play a lot of games there, but I did cover about 3 or 4 games when I was watching Burnley, and he's got something different about him. He didn't really have an eye for goal when he was in a Burnley shirt, let's be honest with you. But I think we saw the real Wout Weghorst when he was at the World Cup, and I think we all remember that goal when he got against Argentina. I think it was the equaliser at the time. I mean, but that's what he can certainly bring to Man United and give them something in the second half of the season.
Yeah, they've been looking a lot at his pressing stats. We spoke about this yesterday as well, about how Manchester United and Erik Ten Hag in particular is looking for a player that will press more than the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo. Has he got that in his locker, or do you think that's why they're eyeing him up?
I think so, Laura. Yeah, I think if you can't play the pressing game for Manchester United now, then you won't be walking through the door. So it's something that Erik Ten Hag has walked through the door at Man United. He's obviously trying to change things around. I think you see the different style in football that they're playing now, and obviously the quality players that he's brought into the club, they all seem to have worked. And he'll be a good addition. I mean, how much he gets to play is another thing in the second half of the season, but that's down to the player. But I still think there's a lot of work to be done to get this deal done, because I think Besiktas don't want to let him out of his contract at Besiktas. I think he's actually turned around and said that he wants to buy himself out of it. So he wants the move to happen. And if, why wouldn't you want to do that? Because he obviously wants to come back to the Premier League on a loan deal. And if it works for him, then you never know. It might become permanent.
Yeah, they basically said, Besiktas basically said, look, we won't be pressured into anything. And you can understand why that.
100%, 8 goals, 16 games, whatever it is. It's an interesting one, Micky, and I agree with you. I would look on it if they did get him in as a kind of different string to the bow, if you like, because it is different to what they've got, and what they would have to do, they would have to play a different type of game, I would suggest, to play to his strengths as well.
Well, Coisty, I mean, because of the size of him, I mean, he's a big guy. He's kind of a centre forward. He's like who holds the ball up. I mean, I know they've obviously got Martial at the moment. It's not really happening for him at the minute. So absolutely. I mean, whether they change the style or not, I don't know, because we just talked about, being a high pressing centre forward. So I think you'd have to fit into the way that Manchester United play. But would he be more of an impact sub? I would probably think so, because of the pace that Man United play with on the counter attack. He's not that type of player. He's not an out-and-out striker who can run in behind people. But he just gives them a different option, and I think it's not a bad move. As you mentioned, he's probably down the list of centre-forwards that you'd look at and maybe think that he would actually walk through the door at Manchester United. But I'm sure Erik Ten Hag has done his homework on the player. So there's obviously a reason why they want to bring him to the club. But it's still an interesting one. I mean, if you think about it, I think Man United are probably looking down the route of a Harry Kane. I know Tottenham supporters probably don't want to hear that, but if that's going to happen, I think that's a move that will happen in the summer and not January.
How much do you think the position of the club at the moment, we're saying that effectively they're up for sale, how much do you think that will affect their future transfers until that sale's over the line?
It's a difficult one, Laura, isn't it? Man United are not in a position in this January transfer window right now, under the ownership now, of bringing in players for 80-90 million pounds. And I think that would happen in the summer if it was ever going to happen, if this takeover that's been talked about goes through. I know that they're obviously, the speculation started a couple of months ago. But yeah, I think who's João Felix? I think that was another name that got mentioned. Obviously, Chelsea are hugely strong in that department, because I think the loan move is going to be £9 or £10 million. I don't think Manchester United are in a situation where they can go out and spend £10 million on a loan player like that to bring him into the club. So Yeah, they're in this bracket of trying to bring in a player like that, and I just don't think that they want to make it a permanent one, because I think summer's going to be obviously huge, and that'll only happen if this takeover happens. I mean, but that will take a long time, because to run by Manchester United, I mean, you're talking about £6 billion at least. So it needs some big investors to come into the club, and I don't think right now the owners are in that position to try and bring somebody in.
How much for you, being our Manchester correspondent, how much has the mood at United changed over the last month or so?
I think it's more than a month, Laura. I really do. I just think there's something happening at Manchester United. I think the football that they're playing, and it's a club that people want to go to because of the style of playing. They've got a chance of obviously finishing in the top 4, maybe even higher than that. You can't write them off. And look, I don't think they will, but you can't write them off for winning the Premier League because of the football they're playing. They've got things going at Old Trafford again. It's more of a fortress, which it hasn't been for the last 4 or 5 seasons, maybe even longer than that. And anybody would want to play for Manchester United right now.
Yeah. Micky, I'm looking at the league table. Arsenal on 44 points, Manchester City on 39, Newcastle 35 in third, and then Manchester United also on 35 points. Arsenal play Manchester United as well in the next couple of weeks too. So, that will be a really interesting game. All right, Micky, lovely to have you on, mate. Take care.
Thanks, Mick. All the best.
talkSPORT Breakfast with Laura Woods. Monday to Wednesday mornings 6 till 10. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.